What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's get into it, okay? The purpose of this video is to discuss where I think the price is going to be in the near term, in the midterm, by the end of this move, so on and so forth. So if that sounds good to you, let's get into it. Let's get watching. Looking at the price here, right? You've moved down, and now you're kind of moving sideways, right? I think it's clear that once you break above this little shelf here where you found support previously, where you found some resistance even prior to that, even resistance back here prior to that, when you break above this relative shelf here, you're likely going to see a more explosive move, something that's bigger than what we've seen in the past like couple weeks now, right? Or at least since this day, to say the least. If we take a relative high to the relative low, we get that same notion, but off the fibs, right? The 382. Whenever you break above the 382, likely you'll see a nice move up to the golden ratio. I think that sometime next week, we will move up to about 102 to 103,000. We could potentially even reach for about 105 to 107,000 by the end of next week. And then going into the following week, going into the end of the month, I suspect Bitcoin would reach, by the end of February, I would think that we're at new all-time highs for Bitcoin, okay? Maybe not by the end of next week, but by the end of February. And I was expecting, the call was that we'd be at 132K by the end of February. I'm not saying it's impossible. It could happen. We can move up a lot in a very short amount of time. We don't need even a week to make phenomenal moves, right? We just need like a couple days, and we could definitely see new all-time highs. But I don't know if we'll see 130K by the end of this month. I think targets between 115 to 122,000 make a little bit more sense. That's probably where we will be by the end of the month of February. By the end of this coming week, which is not the end of February, right? The end of the coming week will be on February 23rd. I would expect we're probably no higher than 107K, right? Between 107 to 102, likely we're closer to this 105 and 107 by the end of next week. Going into the final week of February to finish out the month, I believe we'll be at new all-time highs, pressing 120K, maybe even pressing 130K, but not quite reaching it, right? Which gets us set up, or not even set up, but promotes this idea that we are continuing from a move that we've already made, right? Like that we are essentially in the same, I don't even know what to say. It's not the same move. We're on the same path, right? We moved up. This is our path before. We're at a stopping point. If we're moving up again, breaking out, it would feel like it's all part of the same move is all I'm trying to say. Although it's not, right? This is a move, and then it stopped, and then this is its next move. The reason why I'm trying to compare it in this kind of light is that if we were to directly compare this move to this move that we are anticipating to come, by the exact same length from a low to a high, we could expect to see something that would take us to about 150,000 by the end of this next move. And I expect this next move to end sometime in March, right? Sometime probably in the middle, if not at the end of March. It could go until April. And when I say it ends in March, I don't mean that's the end of the cycle. I just mean like this, we consolidate again. And this here, where we consolidate basically from end of November to the end of February, right? But by the end of February is when we're going to break out. That's what I'm thinking. So that's November, December, January, February. That's 3 months of consolidation. That's about the length. That's about the maximum length that you see in a bull market, with the exception of the halving like area consolidation. Normally we do consolidate for anything from like 3 to 5 months or more months with the halving. Every other consolidation phase tends to be 3 weeks to 3 months, something like that. So what I'm getting at here is, while this is a good idea, just using this prior move in reference to what we could see here, while this is a good kind of idea, a good measurement of where we could stop by the end of March, I don't think that will be stopping there for long. Again, what I just said was 3 months, which is how long we've been consolidating. That's a little bit on the long side for consolidating in a bull market. It's normal, it's average, but on the longer side of average. My thoughts would be then that once we get up here, we consolidate for less time and we press even higher. I would assume that we probably do continue to grow in April, in May. You guys, we're in the finale phase of the bull market. Okay, we literally have between now and October, if not longer, we have, what would that be? Between now and the end of October, I guess it's 8 months, right? Would that be 8 months? Middle of March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, that would be 8 months. Okay. Yeah, about if Bitcoin goes until October, we have about 8 months left in the cycle, okay? The reason why I'm getting caught up on this was I was just saying we could move up month after month after month, and I mean that because if the top's in October and we go back here to a year before the top happened, you can see 12 months here, okay? And if this month of February closes green like I think it will, just wait. Okay, just wait. I'll be right back to this point. Okay, I promise I'm going to come back. It'll make sense as to what I'm doing. If you've watched this channel before, you already probably know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to make sense out of this. Okay, so if the cycle ends at the end of this year in October, and we take a year from before that, how many red candles do you see so far? You see 1 and 2. Likely February closes green, so we can already nullify that as a red one. But 12 days, 22 hours left. We never know what happens, but I do think that it closes green. If we go back to the last cycle, and we go to the cycle high, and we go back 12 months. 12 months here, we had 1, 2, 3 red months. That third one was where we put our cycle ending high, so we still grew in that third month. We go back to the cycle before, and we go back to 12 months, you can see that there were 1, 2, 3 red months again. Okay. All I'm trying to offer is whenever I say that this was a long, remember how we got distracted, remember how we got here. This is a long consolidation phase for the bull market, okay? All I'm trying to say by that is that likely when we do move up to 150 or higher by the end of this move, which will probably be in March, the next consolidation phase is probably going to be shorter because, again, we only have so much time left in the cycle. Each cycle, and we could go back further than this, right? This is just on the Coinbase chart, so we don't have all the history, but each cycle you'll see there's no more than there's no more than 3 red months in any last given year for a bull cycle, okay? So what that would imply is if the cycle ends in October, we've already got 1 red month underway. If February closes red, cool, that means we have 2 red months. That means between now and October, 8 months left. We only will have 1 red month. That means we're going to have 7 months of growth, you guys, which would be nuts. If we're going to have 7 months of growth, we are likely not going to see consolidation phases that last too long. We're not going to have multi-month consolidation phases anymore, right? It's not going to happen. Maybe a month and a half, but not a 3-month consolidation phase. Those days are over, right? For the rest of the cycle, it's go mode only is what I'm trying to say. I don't think that this monthly candle is going to close red. I think that it will close green, so that would imply that we have 2 more red months. But we also don't have to have 2 months, right? This doesn't show the whole history of Bitcoin, but if we went back to other prior cycles, there were, I think, 2 other cycles that had only 2 red months in them for their last 12 months, okay? And they did have longer consolidation phases, right? They had green months that were besides the red months, but they were kind of neutral. They weren't as exciting that whole time, but still only 2 red months. All I'm trying to say is we don't have to have 3 red months in this last 12-month period. It could only be 2. But if we have 8 months left, or we're assuming to have 8 months left, by the end of this year, October 2025, Bitcoin ends its cycle, then I think that we're essentially assuming that we at least have half a year, 6 months at the bare minimum of green months to go. 6 months of green months to go. So whenever I tell you that I believe this next move here, if it were to be mimicked, if it were to be similar to this move here from a low to a high, and that move from this low, this relative low right here, takes us all the way to $148,000. Whenever I tell you that we likely won't consolidate even as long as we consolidated here, whenever we're up here, I mean that. I mean that a lot, right? We will probably find our top, our relative high here in March, and then consolidate for a little bit. And then going into the end of March, going into April, we'll start to proceed higher. We'll start to press $200,000, you guys, over the next 2 months. By the end of April, we might be above $200,000. If not, we're at least pressing that, is the kind of thought that I'm offering here. Bitcoin is not even worth $100,000 right now. It's the most secure asset in the world, and we could literally see it double in 6 weeks' time. Well, maybe not 6 weeks' time. Maybe 6 weeks' time. I would say 8 weeks to 12 weeks' time is more of an appropriate thing that I'm getting on. I don't know even how we got here. I just got on a whole different tangent. I'm talking about my thoughts for how I see this thing developing, right? But also, I want to go back to this notion that if we saw a similar move to what we saw last time here, again, I'm not measuring from the absolute low, just the low of where the move actually started. If we do the same thing here, that puts us to about $148,000, something just below 150K. I want to offer the perspective that we actually likely see a stronger move going forward, because historically, and you can go back and look yourself, we're not going to do that, I don't want to bore you guys too much, but historically speaking, the stronger moves, and maybe I should say this differently, the more that you mature in a bull cycle, the stronger your moves get. Right, the strongest moves happen at the end of the cycle. So that would imply that as we go forward, as we progress, expecting stronger moves is actually the right thing to do. So comparing this move here to what we might see is actually not appropriate at all. I think that something bigger is what we should consider. If we take a high to a low here, you know, that same measure move, I think it was what was it down over here? Low to high is like 60%, something like that. That measure move would take you just above the 2618. But if you're going to see a bigger move than what you saw last time, then you're not going to stop here. You would likely stop at least at about $160,000 to $175,000. That's your next target zone, right? Because you can see the fibs here. If you were to make the same move that you made here, it would take you right here above the 2618. But you likely don't see the same move. You likely see a stronger move. And even without that, if you get above the 2618, you rarely stop between the 2618 and the 2886. It's either you stop at the 2618 or you stop at the 2886, or you go a little bit above the 2886. So stopping here in a FIB perspective doesn't make sense either. Stopping here in an RSI in a cyclical perspective doesn't make sense, because likely we're only going to see stronger moves. Stopping here at a FIB perspective doesn't make sense because you don't stop here. Normally, if you went at least here, you would go here. So what I'm calling for by the end of March, just to get it to the point, from the low would be about a 75% move to a 92% move. Bitcoin quite literally could double from that low by the end of March. It's crazy. From the current price of about 97.6K, that's only a 79% growth to potentially 63% growth. But I mean it. I really do think that by the end of March, we'll be at about 160 to 175K. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I went off the rails a little bit there. I got a little distracted, but everything looks good. Weekly RSI bouncing off the 60, getting lower lows, relatively lower lows here on the RSI while you're getting higher lows in the price. That's what you call hidden bullish divergence. Sorry, hidden bullish divergence. That's a good thing. 3-day time frame, same thing. You're getting lower lows in the RSI, higher lows in the price. That's a good thing. You're essentially cooling off your indicator. It was overheated. Now it's cooled off down here, but your price hasn't really cooled off at all. It's just holding. This is very, very bullish, right? You've reset here. You've maintained the same prices. Now you're ready to go. You know what I mean? Now you're just making progress. You didn't correct. Now whenever your RSI grows, you're not backtracking, right? Even if it is a higher low, you're not backtracking. You really are set up to move higher. This is really good structure, very productive stuff, and I expect it to result in nothing less than something that's rather miraculous and probably the largest move that we've seen this cycle. I very much wouldn't be surprised at all. And I think a lot of people will be, which is kind of funny, right? It's not funny. Maybe I should say it's ironic. It's kind of funny, actually. I think it genuinely is funny. I hope I'm wrong, but just watch this, right? I have the gift of foresight with certain things, okay? Whenever it comes to crypto, I like to think that I have the gift of foresight. Here's my foresight. Here's what I'm going to think. I'll end the video with this. Everybody, by the end of this move, they're going to say things like, I don't think anybody expected this move to be the biggest move that we saw in this cycle. Nobody expected a move to be this big. Nobody expected Bitcoin to be this eruptive. And it's funny because the charts make it so obvious that something like this is coming our way. It's so incredibly obvious, you guys, that we're reaching for 170 to 180K by the end of March. And if we're not at least there, 160K is what I would think. But it's not this like crazy thing. It's nice to see these movements, and they're crazy movements. It's nice, but it's the fact that it's going to catch a lot of people off guard. I don't get how it's going to. But watch it happen. I'm just telling you, watch. I would expect that there will be some big YouTubers or big names on X.com that say these exact words, that say, who would have seen this coming? Who would have guessed that Bitcoin moved up this much? If you're watching this channel, we're all pretty aware that it's going to happen, okay? It seems obvious. I don't know. Hit the like button and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Bye.